Insurgency Sandstorm is in a really weird spot right now.
Why ISMC is making Insurgency Sandstorm better.
It's much slower paced, much more tactical, much more immersive, much more...
It's a brand new hardcore mod that is completely changing how Insurgency is played, bringing Tarkov-like weapon customization.
These weapons, in my opinion, should be ported over to base game Insurgency Sandstorm.
But these updates and these DLCs are trending away from the hardcore tactical shooter nature.
After the updates, the ISMC mod will be the game we wanted from New World Interactive.
This is, in my opinion, the only reason to be playing Sandstorm at the current moment.
This is a problem and we need to talk about it. Please do not attack anyone mentioned in this video. This is not an attack on ISMC or anyone else mentioned. My opinions are my own. You might have noticed the recent surge in popularity of the ISMC mod for Insurgency Sandstorm lately. All over Reddit, YouTube, and other social media, certain content creators and a substantial proportion of the ISMC community have been very vocal about their opinions of the ISMC mod and NWI. NWI being the studio that develops Insurgency Sandstorm. Like I stated in the beginning, this video is not an attack on ISMC. They are a major part to the video and will help me prove my point, but this video is mainly about the community and content creators surrounding the mod. I like ISMC. I think the mod is great for the people that want a different experience to vanilla Sandstorm. So if you can give me a couple minutes, I'd like to explain to you why this is a stupid take. One of the main comments I see across all of social media is this. So let's dive into why this wouldn't necessarily be possible or as easy as you think, nor would it strengthen vanilla Sandstorm as a video game. A mod is an alteration by players or fans of one or more aspects of a video game, such as how it looks or behaves. I want you to think about it this way. The development team, being NWI for example, has to do all the hard work. NWI are the construction workers. They build the house and the modding team are the decorators or landscapers that come in and make the property all nice and pretty. For the most part, the house is very well built too. There's some special features to it that make it stand out, and the decorators, the modders, don't really have to add that much. But they want to add their own flair to the house. Maybe a big painting in the living room, a giant chandelier in the entrance, a bowling alley to the rear of the house. You get the idea. I'm going to reiterate this again and a lot of times throughout this video. The ISMC devs do great work and I respect the passion they put into their mod. But NWI have a lot more to worry about compared to a modding team. Game development isn't easy. Whether you're an indie team or a big AAA title, each company has certain requirements they need to meet and limitations they have to adhere to.
A lot of mods do start. There are a lot of mods that people start up and they have ideas, but ideas are only a small percentage of development. You know, the execution is the bigger part.
NWI are a small indie team that was actually started by a group of modders, but they still have superiors to answer to, deadlines to meet, they have a budget and they have paid staff to worry about. But more importantly, they have copyright issues that inhibit their ability to add whatever they want to Insurgency Sandstorm. For a small company like NWI, unfortunately it might just be easier to scrap certain content ideas because it's not worth the time or money to deal with all the legal fees. I'm not sure why it's becoming a trend to hate NWI lately. The community surrounding ISMC seems especially hostile toward them. You guys have to realize something. Without NWI, you would not have ISMC. Looking on Twitter and conversing with Hank, the community manager of Sandstorm, they have nothing but respect for each other, and the ISMC devs and Hank are working together to try and expand the modding experience for all of us. Which brings me to my main point. ISMC has its problems and flaws. A lot of them. My main issue with ISMC is their balance and how the community and some big named content creators fail to see their own hypocrisy in what they want from vanilla Sandstorm, or what they think vanilla Sandstorm should be.
I think I realized early on we were onto something with the mod. It was definitely different than what was out there. You had the bigger titles like an Arma, which leaned more into the realistic aspects. you had Counter-Strike and you had other action-oriented titles, but I think that was the first that I really felt something different in just the way we were approaching player mechanics and our HUD. It was offered something different I don't think that was there at that moment on that scene.
We're kind of like constantly trying to find the right balance between what is realistic versus what's fun. I think that's where we get a lot of our praise with Insurgency, is that we managed to create a game that is, you know, highly lethal, highly immersive, but is also enjoyable. Like, it's not like you have to, you know, walk for 30 minutes somewhere and then you get shot and you don't know where you got shot from, you know?
Again, please do not attack anyone I mention in the video. We all share a different opinion and that's okay, but you are only entitled to that opinion if you can argue for it. Enter BigFry. My information on BigFry is a little foggy, but from my understanding, he stopped playing Sandstorm a long time ago because he thought the game got stale really quick because of the lack of content, and that the guns basically all feel the same due to the fast time to kill, so he'd always just run the M4. Keep this in mind. He wasn't really a fan of the PvP game modes except Firefight, and I recall him saying that co-op is incredibly boring.
You know that I like Firefight. A Firefight is the only game mode that I do play. I hate push. Don't enjoy the respawn style game modes. The time to kill is just so fast that I just don't see the point in playing other guns. I usually just use the M4, the AKM, even though they killed the only game mode that I enjoyed in that game, and that's Firefight. I don't play push. I don't play co-op. I don't play any of that shit. I play to play competitively.
How is ISMC the best thing to happen to Sandstorm when all it does is add the very thing that you're bored of? So why the sudden change of heart? Can people change their opinions of things? Sure, absolutely. But I don't think that's what's going on here. Like I said just before, ISMC is great, but all it does at this stage is add a bunch of new weapons and attachments and clothing. They have a bunch of cool scopes and grips, bigger mags and carriers, etc. And I think they're adding a vehicle soon, but even with the addition of that vehicle, there's no huge gameplay changes. These new grips literally do all the same thing as far as I know. Same with the stocks and stuff. They are just purely cosmetic after that. Is that a bad thing? Hell no, give the player more options to customize their kit. It's cool as hell, but all their HK variants, AK variants, etc. all perform nearly identical, adding nothing new or refreshing to the game. So I don't know how this is reviving Sandstorm. There's a few things in ISMC that I want in vanilla Sandstorm, like the point shooting grip for example. It would need a bit of balancing, but I think it would be a cool addition. Also the canted sights, I think they're great, but that's not what I'm talking about here. All ISMC does is add on to what vanilla Sandstorm co-op offers. That is hardly a reason to only play Sandstorm. That's a bullshit clickbait title and you know it. I've seen time and time again that ISMC is giving the community what they want. Are you sure about that? Because last time I checked, the community couldn't give a shit about new guns. Sure, new guns are always cool and we won't say no to them, but I feel like we as a community want much more. We want new game modes, we want existing game modes to be tweaked, we want skirmish to be permanent, and we want bugs to be fixed. But I digress, back to BigFry. He posted a tweet shortly after the video went live and he said, "Apparently some people are pissed that my video states that ISMC is the only reason to play Sandstorm, yet never tell me why there are other reasons. How about you respond when people actually give you reasons? Better yet, tell me why you think ISMC is the only reason to play Sandstorm. Go into detail, BigFry. Tell me exactly how new guns that are basically all the same, cosmetics, enhanced movement and no recoil changes Sandstorm for the better. I'll touch on that in a minute. PvP modes are meh. Firefight is the only competitive mode and it's dead, and ISMC just adds onto what vanilla co-op is. Okay, first of all, comp is dead on official servers, sure, because no one played it. The vast majority of the PvP community stuck to push, so you can't blame NWI for axing servers for a game mode that wasn't populated. There are plenty of communities running comp regularly. You just have to look. I play comp 3 to 4 times a week. I admit that NWI didn't do comp any favors. There was no incentive to play comp because your rank wouldn't even show in public push games and stuff, nor were there any rewards for being max rank as far as I know. So yes, NWI share the blame here, and we need to hold them accountable for that. Also, PvP modes are meh? What do you mean exactly? How are PvP modes meh, yet killing mindless bots over and over again on an objective fun? You said it yourself, all ISMC does is add on to what vanilla co-op is. That's not game changing, nor the only reason to play Sandstorm. PvP game modes can change each time you play them. You've got map rotations, enemy skill, classes to play against, etc. Not to mention the reward factor of beating an opponent. If you get a dopamine kick from killing an AI, then more power to you. I don't care. You play the game in a way where you have fun, but it's the competitive nature of PvP that keeps people feeling rewarded. What's the one thing you think Sandstorm is known for? I'd argue that the main thing Sandstorm is known for is its gunplay. Its gunplay is what keeps people returning. My point being is that earlier on I mentioned how ISMC has a bunch of customization options like grips and stocks and whatever. Well, you can customize your kits so much to the point of almost completely removing recoil from your weapon. I mean, look at this fucking perk. You cannot sit there and tell me that this isn't straight up a COD style perk. You can increase your weapon swap speed, ADS speed, reload speed to exaggerated amounts. You can straight up just fucking zoom around the place at a much faster rate than you normally can in vanilla Sandstorm because weight also doesn't affect you in ISMC. You can take like 2 primaries or something, as well as an MP7 as a sidearm, and then a pistol as another sidearm, and all the explosives you want basically, and still somehow not have your bones crush under the weight of all that gear. Oh, but ISMC is realistic though apparently. You can sprint, jump, and ADS all simultaneously. That is absurd. You are taking away the very thing that makes Sandstorm Sandstorm. It's heavy yet smooth movement accompanied by hard-hitting weapons. Sure, all of those customization options are completely up to you, but from what I've seen and from what I've seen in these big content creators' videos, the majority of people jump on ISMC to kit out their loadouts like that, regardless if they're versing hardcore bots or normal bots. And all these things are in the base mod. Giving yourself all those perks along with the movement speed and all those attachments like I mentioned, do you know what game it feels like then? Fucking hardcore Call of Duty, I shit you not. The very fucking thing that this community doesn't want the game to turn into. There is a lot of hypocrisy and contradictory statements going on lately because everyone is jumping on the bandwagon of hating NWI and loving anyone that isn't them. I really haven't got anything to elaborate on about Controlled Pairs. He has a terrible clickbait title just like BigFry, and if they both titled it, "This is the only reason I play Sandstorm," then I wouldn't have a problem. Controlled Pairs focuses on immersive milsim games, and the way he plays ISMC PvE is trying to adhere to that. I haven't got a problem with that at all, but I feel like he and others misidentify what Sandstorm is, and I will cover that in the last chapter of this video. Back to Twitter. MoiDawg, another big content creator, had this to say: ISMC is the main draw to Sandstorm right now, and that's not a bad thing. Embracing modding is always a good move, and if the studio reacts to what the community wants, the base game would improve too. Until then, vanilla Sandstorm is very bland. I agree that embracing modding is a good thing. Incredible things can come from mods, but vanilla Sandstorm is very bland? How is ISMC PvE not bland? Like I've said, all ISMC does at the moment is add new weapons, attachments, and cosmetics, something that the core community doesn't really care about. If ISMC comes up with some exclusive game mode that makes the majority of the community migrate to that specific game mode only, then yeah, then we'll talk about how ISMC is the future of Sandstorm. Do you know what helps make a game less stale? Moderation. Playing any game for 8+ hours a day will make any game stale really quickly. Earlier on, I mentioned how I believe that Controlled Pairs and other creators and community members misidentify what Sandstorm is. I don't believe that Sandstorm is a tactical shooter. I think the gaming industry needs to redefine what that word means because companies and content creators are using it as a buzzword at this point. Just because a game has a fast time to kill and requires teamwork does not make it tactical. Can you play Sandstorm tactically? Sure, but you can also play a game like Battlefield tactically. That doesn't make the game tactical though. In my opinion, a tactical game should actively punish you for not adhering to a specific game plan, and also somehow incentivize using that plan and communicating with your team. You can't just use tactical jargon in your communication and call it a day. Again, if you want to play like that, then I have no problem with that whatsoever. But you cannot sit there and degrade Vanilla Sandstorm for being unrealistic and not tactical enough when ISMC has all of those ridiculous features like I've mentioned. Let's get one thing straight. Insurgency has always been a mix of casual arcade fun and hardcore semi-realism. It's never been a milsim, nor has it tried to be. That's the game's main identity and its major appeal to a lot of people. If you want a milsim, go play Squad or Armor. Again, this video was not an attack on ISMC. I think they do great stuff and they should keep going. And if you only play Sandstorm for ISMC, then that is completely okay. I will always advocate for people playing a game in a way where they have fun. If fun for you is playing dress-ups in ISMC and role-playing, then you do you. I'm always going to be a PvP guy because of the competitive nature. My main point is that there is more to Sandstorm than weapons and PvE, and ISMC is not the only reason to play Sandstorm. And like I said, you cannot sit there and over-exaggerate what ISMC is while also degrading Vanilla Sandstorm. They both have their place and are both important to the future of the game. I'm gonna ask this question one more time. How is adding a bunch of weapons that are incredibly unbalanced, attachments that are purely cosmetic for the most part, excluding the scopes and some magazines and grips, etc., clothing, things like this that are fucking ridiculous, faster, exaggerated movement mechanics that mimic COD, good for Sandstorm? Seriously, how? So no, ISMC is not saving Sandstorm.
Okay.
Sandstorm is doing pretty well at the moment actually. So keep this in mind when you see someone say NWI need to listen to the community or ISMC should just take over NWI at this point. If NWI did that, we'd have an incredibly unbalanced, unrealistic game that is a fucking shadow clone of COD.
Are you serious?